In this video, we discuss 7 of the worst money habits of all time. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
We spend a lot of time talking about money on this channel. Ways to optimize your savings, Social Security, your 401k, how to spend wisely. But we have not yet broached the topic of the worst things to do with your money. So I thought that I would put together a common list. You would have seen this dozens of times in your life, maybe even more. Maybe even you personally have engaged in a few of these. So why don't we jump into it? But before we do, please make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted the next time I post a video. I post about twice a week. All right, let's go. Let's begin by acknowledging that no one is perfect. No matter how perfect you think you are at money, no one is perfect. But there is imperfect and there are definitely no-nos. And this list is the list of no-nos. Number 1 is binge spending. Let me explain. Why is it that when people get their paycheck, the paycheck is gone within a few days? That's not always the case, obviously. There are people that are very, very good with spreading out their finances, but there are people also that get it out the door as fast as possible. When the paycheck comes in, the starting gate opens up and they're off to the races. As it turns out, there's a term for it, and the term really explains the buyer's high that someone gets when they are out putting money out very, very fast. And in fact, according to Psychology Today, 20 million people in this country engage in compulsive spending. The habit often originates when parent and child are out together and they have a shopping date. What is a social activity is the catalyst for something that is much deeper. The enjoyment of being together was the outcome, and the spending of the funds was the catalyst. So there was a direct link between spending and enjoyment. In some instances, it almost didn't matter what the purchase was. It was the fact that the two together would go out, they would commiserate, they would discuss, and they'd end up buying something along the way. So if you're engaging in binge spending, realize that you're probably addressing a social need, not a product need. Horrible money habit number 2 is ignoring interest rates. What makes a credit card so dangerous is the separation of the act of buying with the pain of paying. They often don't even occur in the same month. This is particularly dangerous when you don't have to pay off the balance at the end of the month, which is the case with most credit cards. Add to this the absolute enormity of credit card interest rates, and it's easy to think 18%, 21%, what's the difference? The it's still large either way mentality combined with the separation of spending and paying is something that creates a horrible situation for many, many people. In fact, they grow numb to the number. They get advice like pay off the smallest balance first, ignore the interest rate, just pay off the smallest balance first. This is good advice to deal with the psychology of debt, which is to have little mini wins along the way. By paying off a credit card, you have a bit of a victory, which gives you momentum to the next credit card. Thinking about interest rates in a critical manner is difficult when the emotion of the credit card balance is it's 18% or 21%, what's the difference? So when you think that 3% isn't a big deal, imagine right now if your mortgage was 3% higher than it is today. Yours is 6%, your neighbor's is 3%. Would you think it was a big deal then? You absolutely would think it was a big deal, and you would work very hard to get your mortgage from 6% down to 3% as fast as possible. This is because you've been trained to think that your mortgage rate needs to be as low as possible. The fact is you're emotionally involved in your home, and your mortgage is a big part of your home, so you pay attention to it. So when you think 21% is no big deal, it's only a few $1,000s, remember that over a decade, that becomes a very large number. Horrible money mistake number 3 is living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. They have too much month at the end of their check, as the saying goes. Living paycheck to paycheck means you miss a lot of money saving opportunities. And the fact of the matter is, whether you pay it today or 2 weeks from today, you're still paying the same amount. And candidly, if you're paying it 2 weeks from today, you might even be paying a late charge along with the payment. Think about the airline ticket or your vacation as a starter. If you buy your airline ticket as you're driving to the airport because it's payday, it's going to cost you 2, 3, 4 times as much as if you had bought it a month earlier. What about the vacation? Same thing. If you book a hotel right before you get on the plane, you're going to get the last of the rooms. They're not going to be the best, they're going to be the worst, and they're also going to be the most expensive. And some discounts only happen if you prepay. If you have someone who takes care of your lawn, generally they will give you two options. You can pay month to month, or you can pay the whole year in advance, and they'll give you a 10 or 20% discount. By the way, before we change subjects, subscriptions can be quite dangerous. Whether you're subscribing to a magazine or a lawn service company, make sure that you're getting what you pay for. In the case of a magazine, the chances are you're not, because for most people, when they buy a magazine, it goes right in the drawer or in the garbage, and they never read it. So if you have a subscription and you're not using it, cancel it. All right, back to the video. Along those same lines, you can't buy in quantity because you can't make it to the end of the month. And I'm not talking about buying in quantity where you go to Costco and you buy 6 months worth of groceries. I'm talking about buying a pack of 10 batteries instead of buying a pack of 4. And of course, you will routinely pay late fees. And if you pay your credit card late, not only will you pay late fees, but your credit can be affected. And if you're not paying your credit card on time and you have the option to postpone, you most certainly will carry a balance and pay interest on your credit card. If you're in this situation, it takes 1 month to get out of it. Simply take that month and don't spend money on anything discretionary. It will be tough, but you only have to do it one time, usually. That means don't go out to dinner. It means don't go to the movies. It means stay home for 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, you'll have a little left over in your checking account. That should be enough to allow you to start working your way out of this situation. And the following month, give yourself a little bit more space, and then a little bit more. Eventually, you'll be able to buy the vacation early. You'll be able to pay for your subscription for the full year if this is something that you want to keep. But most importantly, you won't be in a situation where you have 3 days left and you don't have any money to pay the bills. Horrible money habit number 4 is status shopping. How about a nice $2,000 purse to put your keys in? Do you get $2,000 worth of enjoyment from buying and using that purse? What about the McMansion that you bought right at the front of the street? It costs 50% more than your neighbor's house. Does it give you 50% more enjoyment? There's a great book, I think you can still get it on Amazon, called Class, A Guide Through the American Status System. It was written by a man named Paul Fussell, and it breaks down the spending habits based on someone's social status. It's a bit satirical because not everyone falls into the spending classes that Mr. Fussell describes, and that was the entire point of the book. However, it does make you think. In a nutshell, the way people spend their money has less to do with their income and more to do with if they have something to prove. Those in the middle want to look like those at the top, or at least what they think those at the top should look like. This group wore designer golf shirts and drove German sports cars. Interestingly, those at the top didn't make statement purchases. They deployed their funds based on what they wanted and needed, not what their neighbor would think of what they purchased. Their homes were comfortable, generally private, away from the street, and not oversized. I've always been impressed by Warren Buffett and his home in Omaha, Nebraska. He purchased his home in 1958. He still lives there today. It's 6,500 square feet. He purchased it for $31,500. Incidentally, Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion, so he can afford just about any home he wants. But yet he decided to stay in the one that he purchased in 1958. He says it's comfortable, it has a lot of memories, and still more memories to go. He has nothing to prove. Money mistake number 5, using credit cards to pay your bills. For many people, if you use your credit card to pay your bills, you will be spending more than if you simply write a check or use a debit card. This is true whether you pay off your credit card at the end of the month or not. Why? Because you separate the pain of seeing the funds come out of your account from the act of buying. Moreover, there's some confusion about where your finances actually lie. You have a little more cash in your account than you thought, but you've got this debt that's outstanding. You haven't reconciled the two, and you won't until you get your credit card bill. You say, yes, Jeff, but I pay off my credit card every single month. Great, but that doesn't mean that you will be ruthlessly precise about your spending the way you would if you were writing a check or paying cash, unless you are simply that kind of person. By the way, most people are not that kind of person. So if you are, then forget what I just said. For the rest of us, try using your debit card or writing a check. Money mistake number 6 is paying your bills late. Early on, I mentioned the living paycheck to paycheck saga, and I mentioned the fact that people often pay their bills late. But there's another group of people that pay their bills late, people that just don't get around to it. Let me explain. You get your credit card bill, you toss it in the drawer, you've got plenty of money in your checking account, your credit card bill comes and goes, and you don't get to it. You get notification from your credit card company saying you're late, can you please pay this? You do pay it, usually. Sometimes you think, I'll just get it on the next one, and then you pay it then. The problem is that even though you can and will pay your credit card, the credit card company doesn't know that. So what happens? They report you to the credit bureau. Paying your bills late will decimate your credit score. It doesn't matter if you could and you just decided that you weren't going to. It doesn't matter if they charge you a late fee and you just say, I'll pay the late fee. You still will get hit with a late payment notification on your credit report. If this is you, I'll give you the same advice that I gave to the person who has too much month at the end of their money. And that is, take a month off, pause discretionary spending. It doesn't matter if you can afford it, pause it, build a little excess so that you can again pay everything on time or even early. And focus on paying your bills when they come in the door, not when they're due. Horrible money mistake number 7 is hoarding your money. This is just as bad in many cases as having too much month at the end of your money, living paycheck to paycheck. The reason is because you have the same outcome. A few videos ago, I discussed the difference between efficient and effective spending. Efficient spending is buying exactly what you need and nothing more. Effective spending is buying something at a great price. Sometimes the two come together and that's nirvana. You get exactly what you need at a great price and that outcome is wonderful. But oftentimes the two are completely separate from one another. If you hold a lot of cash simply because you want to see a large number of zeros in your bank account, you miss out on the juice of life. And you probably miss out on the opportunity to pay off your mortgage, pay down your credit card, refinance your house to a lower rate because you don't want to spend the money to pay the fees to pay down your house at a lower rate. And of course, you're not building credit through demonstrable spending and repayment. So that's my list. Thanks for watching. Before you go, check out this video right here. It's one that YouTube thinks that you will like, and they're pretty good about picking winners in this area. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.